Question: are you fed up with your job? Are you ready to become a successful business owner? If so, listen up. Today is Independence Day for my country, and I called my credit card company to activate a new card. And the gal on the line had the most amazing people skills, better than many entrepreneurs I've met. And at the end of our conversation, she says to me, I've been working here for 19 and a half years, and my management needs to keep tabs on me. Could you fill out this survey at the end of our conversation? And my heart just broke. Here's a woman who has mastered the number one thing I believe it takes to have a successful business. And she's still working under the thumb of a boss who's probably younger than her. And she still needs good marks to keep her job. That is not freedom. That is not what it means to live in a free nation. Now, I'm not bashing on jobs. I think jobs are absolutely necessary. I think that they're great opportunities to learn some very basic skill sets that you're going to need to govern your own life. But I also believe that they should be temporary for most people. There's two groups that I want to talk to. First, to those of you who still have a job. You're not yet a business owner, although you can see yourself doing that in the future. I was an employee for 13 years before I decided to start a business. And I worked, believe it or not, in 30 different jobs trying to find the right fit. And I always felt controlled. I always felt like I wasn't making enough money, wasn't making enough of a difference, and I didn't have enough time freedom. And so here are 3 simple steps that I think are going to take you from being an employee to at least starting a small business. Number 1, you have to free your mind. Starting with watching videos like this, starting with understanding your own history. If you are an American resident, understanding how this country even formed and the principles that it was based on. Now, keep in mind, I am sensitive to all of the natives that were here before the Europeans colonized the area. And so this may not be applicable to everybody who's listening. So a little bit of a history lesson. The American Revolution was started because the British tried to make the 13 colonies pay a large share of the war debt that Britain had incurred from the French and Indian War. And over about 11 years time period, things like the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and various other taxes, Britain just kept increasing how much the colonies had to pay. Now, you have to understand, the reason why the colonies revolted against this was because of writers like John Locke, who, during the Enlightenment period, 1700s, began to unlock people's minds and free their minds and help them understand that the king is not God, and to rebel against a king is not to rebel against God. He began to write about new ideas like limited government and consent. And these were the kind of ideas that began to influence the decisions that they made, specifically to go to war to become their own people group. I think the same is true in entrepreneurship. You have to free your mind. You have to war against the things that you were programmed with, like a job is secure, and be part of the 40-40 plan. 40 hours a week for 40 years is going to give you, some kind of great retirement, and you can buy a Winnebago and travel the US. And most of that, if you really research it, is absolute BS. Number 2 is skill building. I do believe that if you're young and you're inexperienced, the best place to start is with a job. You can be building your entrepreneurial skills while you're working a job. assuming that you're in a decent environment. And so my encouragement to you is learn as much as you can about being a business owner while you're still having a steady income coming in, and increase your income, number 3. So if you're making $12 an hour, $15 an hour, go for the job that pays 20, because you will increase your skill set automatically, right? You get paid for what you produce. And so if you're getting paid more, there's going to be an expectation for you to know more and do more, which is good, because the more that you can know, the more that you can do, the more confident you're going to feel when you go out on your own. And then lastly, research your passion. Figure out, what is it that I want to do? If I did have my own business, what industry would I want to work in? And start building those specific skills. If you don't know what you're good at, take strength finders and figure out what you naturally are inclined towards. Start reading, start listening to podcasts, start watching videos on things that interest you, and figure out if you could turn that into a money-making enterprise. At the age of 27, I became a small business owner, and I stayed a small business owner for 6 years before I transitioned into big business ownership, which is, of course, where I'm at today, alongside some investing. And that transition, I think, from employee to small business owner was the biggest jump for me. And so if you are currently a small business owner, first of all, kudos to you, thumbs up, way to go. I'm so proud of your courage. I know that it takes digging deep to do that. But if your business is not succeeding and you're wanting it to get to a place where you can buy back your time, not just increasing your income, listen up. 3 things. Number 1, you need to grow your skill sets. Just because you have a great idea for a business doesn't mean that it's going to succeed. You know what ideas are worth? Nothing. They're worth nothing. An idea executed well over time is worth a lot of money. And so perhaps it's time to adopt a reading habit. Now, I was never a reader. I hated reading. I was slow at reading, slow at comprehending. But I had to work through that. I took a speed reading course, and I realized that big business owners read an average of 50 books a year, or so I've heard. Small business owners, 5. Well, it sounds like I'm going to become a reader if I want to increase my income and buy back my time. Number 2 is making sure that you partner properly. I cannot underline, I cannot overstate the importance of finding a coach/mentor. It is literally life and death for moving from small to big business ownership. You've got to partner with someone that you trust ethically and also in business, someone who has fruit on the tree, and ask for their input, which is number 3. Ask for their input. If you're in an industry that is leveling out or is going backwards, let's say you own a coffee shop, maybe consider transitioning to something that's actually on the grow, right? The difference between owning a coffee shop and competing with companies like Starbucks versus, let's say, starting an app or getting into creating a health food product or specializing in esports or elderly care. These are things that are on the grow. These are things that have potential over the next few decades to grow leaps and bounds, right? Think new school, think forward, not backwards. All of us have been immigrants at one time or another, and either we or our family members immigrated for increased choices, increase in income, in opportunity, political and religious freedom, and celebrating Independence Day for me, waving a flag and spending time with family and eating hot dogs and choosing not to work. Celebrating freedom for me means freedom of mind, freedom of finance, and freedom of time. And if you don't feel like you have those freedoms in your life, know that I believe in you. Know that you can do this from someone who came from a very blue-collar, very poor background. The difference between you today and you in the future is what you put in here and what you apply.